We turn now to a new book on the 2024 presidential election, which is taking readers behind the scenes of one of the most consequential races in American history. It's entitled Fight: Inside the Wildest Battle for the White House, and features new details about Kamala Harris's conversation with Joe Biden when he told her he was dropping out. Joining us now, the book's co-author, senior political reporter for NBC News, Jonathan Allen, and senior political correspondent for The Hill, Amy Parnes. Good to have you both with us.
Thank you all so much for being with us. There are so many revelations in this book. One of them is that our own Jonathan Lemire was responsible for Joe Biden getting out of the race after asking Nancy Pelosi that question on Morning Joe. But we'll get to that in a minute. Something that really jumps out here is that Barack Obama didn't think that Joe Biden should continue, and he initially didn't think Kamala Harris should replace him. Jonathan, tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. And just to point out, I think everyone there on set features in this book. Jonathan Lemire features prominently. Reverend Sharpton does. Joe, you and Mika do. Except Willie. I'm sorry, Willie. We love you.
Come on.
We love you.
I'll shoot for your next book. 2028. Yeah. What are you writing about? I'm going to work myself into the story.
That means he's the undisclosed source.
You're lucky.
No, he's the leaker. It's like you look at all the Woodward's
Okay,
book.
let me look at what it says.
You just outed me, Jonathan.
Well done, Rev.
I was reading one book one time, I think it was The Commanders. And everybody, Colin Powell wasn't mentioned in the book, and he was the main commander. Colin Powell wrote that book.
There we go.
So, Jonathan, you just told us Willie helped write this book. Go ahead.
Yep.
So President Obama absolutely did not think that Joe Biden should continue, according to our sources close to President Obama. And he also didn't want Kamala Harris to be the replacement for Biden. He didn't think that she was the best choice for Democrats. And he worked really behind the scenes for a long time to try to have a mini primary or an open convention, or a mini primary leading to an open convention. Did not have faith in her ability to win the election. So, and as it turned out, she didn't win, but he was really working against her. In one moment, he had set up a phone call with Congressman Clyburn from South Carolina on the day that Joe Biden handed off the baton to Kamala Harris. And Obama had set up a call with Clyburn for like 5:30 that afternoon. And Clyburn thought to himself, this guy's going to try to rope me into the open convention thing. I better get my endorsement of Harris out there fast so that this is a short conversation.
Wow.
So that's and when Harris talked to Obama on the day that Biden handed off to her, Obama was unwilling to give his endorsement then.
Wow. You know, Amy, we always look back in retrospect and think things were a certain way, just because it's the way the media at the time defined it. You know, I remember after Biden's shockingly bad presidential debate, that's when, the history books were starting, you could just see that was going to be the reason why he was pushed out of the race and he was doing badly. But I remember talking to a reporter 3 days before the before the debate, and we were talking about how Biden was starting to fall behind in Minnesota, that Virginia was getting really tight, uncomfortably tight, and Democrats were afraid Biden would even lose New Hampshire. These Democratic states were starting to go, sort of even. And we both said to each other, the funny thing is, no matter how Biden does in this debate, people are going to blame the debate for the way the polls are already breaking before the debate, right?
Yeah, exactly, Joe. And that's exactly why his advisors felt the need to jump in and kind of switch up the narrative. They knew they were looking at polling. He was looking at polling, and they knew that he was losing. And so they needed to do something, even though there was an advisor, Anita Dunn, who was against it at first. Nancy Pelosi went to Biden and said, you don't need to debate him. Why would you sink to Trump's level and debate him? So there were people who didn't want to debate him. And then, of course, they felt the need to. So there he was. But, we take you inside the book, And what's fascinating is that none of these leaders are gathered together. We have Nancy Pelosi sitting in her living room alone watching. We have Jim Clyburn, who John just mentioned, sitting alone having a drink. And meanwhile, as the debate is unfolding, their phones are blowing up. And that is when everything unfolds and unravels from there, and the 24 days continue.
And so, Jonathan, in some ways, the debate that night spilled out into the open the concerns that a lot of Democrats had had privately about Joe Biden and his ability to carry out another term, and that he was slipping, and all the other things that became apparent at the debate. So there has been reporting in the last several months from a lot of people and saying, I told you so, and Democrats in January of 2023 privately talking about encouraging him not to run for re-election. What did you find? How serious were those challenges internally among Democrats? And was it because they thought he was simply too old?
So the challenges were not articulated that much. There was some of that, right? The Biden White House got polling from Steve Schale down in Florida that basically said the age issue is almost insurmountable for Biden, and Schale's a longtime Biden supporter. Somebody tried to get him into the race in 2016. It was, that was out of love, not out of spite. But I think, I would just say, in addition to that, people thought this was a five-alarm fire. Some of the people thought this was a five-alarm fire. Most voters, most donors did. For some of the leadership of the Democratic Party, the debate was an opportunity to try to move Joe Biden out, which they'd wanted to do. And just one last thing I would say. In this book, I think what Democrats are going to find, what independents are going to find, and what some Republicans are going to find is what the next election looks like, what 2028 looks like, what they need to look for in their leaders, and what they need to demand from politicians in order to get an honest assessment of what's going on. I think most voters didn't know where that race stood when the debate happened, and they were told over and over and over again that Kamala Harris was poised to win at the end, and they were shocked when that wasn't the case.
So, Amy, let's indeed move to the general election, and two moments take us behind the scenes on them that I think were inflection points. One, when Vice President Harris went on The View and said that she wouldn't do anything different than President Biden. I know the Trump team was celebratory about that. And then also you got some new reporting from Bill Clinton, the former president, talking about what he shorthanded as the trans ad, which we have discussed here was very harmful to Democrats and played in Pennsylvania and other swing states. Talk to us about what he had to say.
Well, Bill Clinton is sitting there watching football games on Sunday, seeing this trans ad appear again and again and again. At the same time, he's working rope lines. He's talking to voters. He's trying to find out, take the temperature, as Bill Clinton does. And he's hearing from people that they are not happy with what is happening. They want the campaign to respond to the trans ad. It is going unresponded, and he picks up the phone and is trying to call everyone he can, and he calls Jen O'Malley Dillon in one scene that we have in the book. He's sitting in a hotel room in California, and he dials her up and he says, listen, I'm hearing this, you guys need to fix this, and he's got a good finger on the pulse. Usually this is something Bill Clinton does, and Bill Clinton was told that the data didn't indicate that they were okay. And so I think there was a lot of concern, obviously, brewing behind the scenes that this ad was killing them.
Rev, that ad, the White House, the Harris campaign, everybody were flooded with phone calls saying this ad is killing you among working class black men, Hispanic men, and white men. And everybody, they were getting flooded by people that were closest to them, and they all kept saying the same thing. The data isn't showing anything, and yet the data was obviously showing the Trump team something, because they ran it like 30,000 times, spent $30 million on it. This does remain one of the great mysteries, because this was a Donald Trump policy. Bureau of Prisons, Justice Department. And yet, the Harris campaign just refused to listen to Bill Clinton and all of the feedback. It was almost like they were just robots saying the data does not show. That's just, it was bizarre.
And it's where they lost the narrative. When you let your opponent decide what your issue is, what you represent, and you don't push back on that, then that is what you represent.
And by the way, it wasn't so much, and I've heard, heard James Carville say that it wasn't so much about the content of the trans ad as it defined her as an out-of-touch, left-wing San Francisco liberal who, as Bill Maher said, would never say no to her base.
Exactly. And if you allowed them to set up whatever your premise is, then you're going to come to your opposition's conclusion. But I think one of the interesting things, Jonathan, about your book is that a lot of people don't understand that a lot of these decisions were being made on the fly because no one knew what was going to happen. I remember the day that Biden withdrew. I was at a church in Brooklyn. We were saluting Ed Towns, a former congressman, and I was in the room when Congressman Hakeem Jeffries and Greg Meeks got the word, and they called Clyburn to say, is he going to endorse Harris? So I didn't know the back and forward about Barack Obama. I had not talked to former President Obama, but I trust that that's what's happened since Willie Geist told you that. But I think that I know that there was the nervousness among Democratic leadership you talk about in the book of whether to go to open primary, and it was cut off when Clyburn came back and called us in the room and said he's going to endorse Kamala in an hour. But for that hour, everything was up in the air.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Reverend. There's a moment in the book during the debate, actually. It starts very early. There's a text chain among women in Congress, Democratic women in Congress, and Hillary Scholten, a freshman from Michigan, texts the group chat during the debate, or maybe right after, Whitmer for president. And then somebody else chimes in, Whitmer for president. This is while Joe Biden is, still on debate night. And then the response comes from some of the Congressional Black Caucus members, the women in that caucus, saying, you're not going to skip over Kamala Harris. Joe Biden is already in the rearview mirror for these folks, and there is a fight breaking out over whether it's going to be Kamala Harris or someone else, in this case, Gretchen Whitmer. It was absolutely important, I think, for Congressman Clyburn, and I think also for the members you mentioned, Congressman Jeffries, Congressman Meeks, for Kamala Harris to move forward. And there was this real tension over whether that was going to happen. I'll let folks read it in the book, but a real back and forth between Biden and Harris on that day when he handed it off over multiple phone calls about the timing of his endorsement, because she needed it to happen immediately, and Biden wanted to wait a little bit, give his own announcement a little time to breathe.
Whoa. The new book, Fight Inside the Wildest Battle for the White House, is on sale now. New York Times bestselling co-authors Jonathan Allen and Amy Parnes. Thank you both very much for coming on the show this morning. Congratulations on the book. And it's good to have you. So.